Welcome back to Ask Steve Judd. My name is Sue Brayne. And my goodness me, Steve, we are living in pokey times, particularly politically. And I know you've got a few things you'd like to say about that. So let's start with that.
Yesterday, Sue, it was my birthday, and I went to the theatre. I don't go to the theatre, but yesterday I spent a lot of money on a couple of very good seats at the Old Vic Theatre in London. I've never been there. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And I saw Anna Maxwell Martin and James Corden in a play called The Constituent, about a guy who comes back from Afghanistan extremely damaged. And he appears on the surface to be a violent thug who's abusing his wife and separated from his children and blaming the world for everything around him. But actually, he's got PTSD because he was a whistleblower and all of his compatriots in the army ostracized him for daring to reveal what was really going on. And it was a story of heroism on the part of a British MP. It was very connected with the murder of the British MP Joe Cox a few years ago. And there was a lot of echoes of that in the play. And I'm not going to spoil it too much, but if you get the chance to see The Constituent, please go and see it. There's a couple of absolutely classic lines in there. One is well known. It's like, I am your constituency MP, I am not your punch bag. And the other is, whenever there's a war between empathy and fear, fear always wins. And when we're seeing the bullshit that's going on around all the hype, the black media, the dark media that's going on now, the fear that is being generated into the world around what happens if we don't do this and we don't do that, it takes someone who's both unfearful and objective to be able to discern what's really going on.
Yeah.
And that is where astrology is such a vital and strongly relevant tool in helping us do that.
I think it helps us see the bigger picture, that there's a bigger story going on in the context of our very tiny lives. And important ones. You know, we think, you know, our life obviously for us is very important, but we are within a much broader context as well.
We are. And when you think about it in the terms of the very large scale, I'm doing a lot of writing at the moment about I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to give any spoilers out, but I'm doing a lot of writing about the extremely large picture. And when you start from sort of 1 million years ago or 80,000 years ago, where the first hominids were actually making geometric patterns relating to the heavens, but then you think, well, wait a minute, we've had life on this planet for 4 billion years. And we've been around 50,000 years. It's like a drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to sort of grasp the bigger picture when you're so involved at the minuscule level with everything that concerns us. But there is this kind of divide and conquer thing going on, where the more you segregate people and make them isolated and fearful, the easier they are to govern.
Yes, fear keeps you small, and it keeps you attached to the detail, and rather than actually looking at this bigger picture as you're describing. Absolutely.
Yes, yeah, and we're seeing in France the extreme swing to the right, and we're seeing in England a massive swing to the left, which is kind of paradoxical. And with America, we're seeing a massive swing to the bottom of the gutter, and
I feel so sorry.
But look, this is the beauty of astrology. For years, I've been saying, and you know, you've been working with us as well. We know what's coming up astrologically in the next couple of years in terms of the very large scale, the big picture. And the old has to die before the new can be born.
Absolutely. And we're heading for big stuff in a couple of weeks, aren't we, with Mars coming up to conjunct Uranus, and that's affecting everyone across the globe.
So in a nutshell, the Mars-Uranus conjunction over the period of the 13th to the 17th of July is squaring Donald Trump's moon. It's opposite Joe Biden's Mercury and Sun. In Britain, it's on the sun of the current British Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak.
Today,
Longer,
his last
today.
day.
And opposite his would-be successor, Suella Braverman, her son. But this is time. It's also the Mars-Uranus conjunction is exactly at the time of the Republican convention. And bearing in mind it's squared Donald Trump's sun, I do expect big fireworks at that time, hopefully metaphorically, not literally. And
Yes.
then it goes on, because after that, we've got that killer full moon on the 19th of August, sun opposite moon square Uranus, all at 27 degrees.
Yes.
That's the day of the Democratic convention. And on
Yes.
the American election, we've got the zero, and that is square Trump's ascendant. And then we've got the Mars at 0 degrees Leo, Pluto at 29:55 Capricorn, Mars opposite Capricorn on the day, Mars opposite Pluto on the day of the American election. It's going to go ballistic. And
yes.
it's going to get out of hand, even by American standards.
I mean, yeah, I've been listening to a few Americans talk on YouTube. I mean, you know, in their understanding of what's going on, but there is a sort of common theme of real nervousness of the world that they know and still living at the moment beginning to break up, and it's scary stuff.
Thing is, it isn't just happening in the way that we're seeing it in the newspapers and on the television that's being reported in the Western world. We're seeing it in India, in Africa, even in China and Russia. There's a lot of ferment going on. There's a lot of potential revolution going on, particularly in Iran. Iran is ripe for revolution. And what people aren't realizing big time is that 80% of the people alive on this planet at the moment are under 30, under 35. And they're feeling very, very left out and ostracized. On the one hand, they're looking to the older generation for wisdom and guidance. But on the other hand, they're seeing the older generations as best being corrupt and self-serving.
And Joe Biden and Trumpy.
Dinosaurs.
Refusing to give up, refusing to let go of the throne. It's just tragic. That's such a Pluto and Leo generational thing to do, refusing to get off the throne.
If I try and summarize all of this and I try and find a way of expressing it, it's like I keep coming up with this phrase, this ancient phrase of the unstoppable force against the immovable object. And I've used that a lot recently in connection with the conflicts over recent years between Saturn and Uranus. And now Saturn is beginning to start looking at all of next year when it's going to be sextiling Uranus, which suggests the opportunity to bring a lot more structure out of the chaos, whilst at the same time revolutionizing old boundaries and limitations. So there is light at the end of the tunnel here. But bearing in mind that also next year, by this time next year, Neptune's going to be in Aries. Uranus is going to be in Gemini, just about to move in. It's
big shift, isn't it?
Change or die, evolve or die.
Yeah.
And I don't mean die physically, although there will be a lot of physical death, but I do mean die metaphorically. You know, stay stuck in the past forever or adapt to the changing times. And change is scary to a lot of people.
Yes. Well, we live very comfortable lives, don't we, Steve? I mean, we've all got our electricity and our running water and our loos at work and all of that, and food in the fridge for most of us, and cars in the drive, etc., etc. But it is breaking down, and the thought of losing that, the thought of going into a winter without any heating, it's terrifying for people who've never done that.
Which is most of the people on the planet.
Which is most of the people on the planet. I have faith in the young generation, you know. My take on all of this, and I think this is Mars coming out of as being the warrior energy. And I feel like the younger generation, there is something that the human nature is so tenacious, and it never wants to give up. It wants to live. It wants to stay in this physical body. It wants to have physical experiences. And I can imagine young people being very adaptable. And I was just reading a fascinating article about in London how people are living in communal living spaces. So they're buying or they're renting a small bedroom, but there's a communal space involved. So people are beginning, because they can't afford to live in their own house, they're beginning to learn to live communally. And I think this is hugely positive. However financially difficult it is, it's a positive move in the right direction to bring us back into community.
On the one hand, this is a classic symbol of Pluto moving into Aquarius and Uranus getting ready to move into Gemini. Okay.
Yeah.
On the other hand, yesterday, after going to his theatre and really bursting into tears with the passion of and the evocativeness of the actual what I was experiencing, I came out and I was walking by. I was on the South Bank, and I passed a restaurant where there's about 30 old men, all in white suits and all in suits and jackets and ties with medals and bands around their neck. You know, there was obviously a Masonic link somewhere in there. And they're all just slapping each other on the back and getting stuck into their steaks. And I'm just thinking, profit,
Yeah.
this insane desire for profit is the single biggest motivation that's empowered civilization and evolution over 4,000 or 5,000 years. Got to make money, got to be better than everyone else. And whilst we constantly strive to better ourselves at the expense of others,
Yes.
then the lesson of evolution will never be learnt.
I think it's this desire to be elitist or to be of the elite, isn't it? But I think the Pluto moving into, you know, it's been flirting with the Aquarian energy, hasn't it? And it will continue to flirt until December, when it starts to sort of
Early next year,
really.
yeah, yeah.
And I just feel there's a huge underbelly. I can't talk about any other country, but I know so many people who are gathering together to grow vegetables together, or bringing families together. And there's an underbelly, it's never spoken out. So many people now are moving into vans to live, onto the canals to live. I used to live on a canal boat, and there was relatively few families living on the canals when I was on it. But by heck, when you walk down the canal now, it's full of young people with babies living on a canal boat, teaching the kids. They're teaching them at home. They're doing homeschooling.
Thing is, things are gathering pace. I've been telling people for quite a few years now, oh, you don't want to be living in the middle of a big city by 2026. And now I'm moving it forward to sort of 2025. And there's a few people I'm trying to say, well, look, really, you need to be out of there as fast as possible. Because if things do go pear-shaped, and I hate to sound sort of protectionist, but we in Britain are slightly more protected than most of the rest of the world by nature of being an island state and relatively self-reliant on power, if not food.
I'm not sure about the food.
Well, we don't grow all our own food.
No, we don't. So we're very reliant on other people to fly in.
Oh, no. Scary.
Yeah. Yes.
But at the same time, buying into the fear of stockpiling. Well, we all saw what happened when COVID struck for the first time.
All those loo papers.
The world ran out of toilet rolls, which is such a wonderful metaphor. Everyone was crapping themselves. We're all going to die. Quickly buy toilet roll.
It's bizarre.
Oh, wasn't it just though? Wasn't it just?
That was bizarre. It'll happen again, you know, when people.
Yeah.
You can just, but I just don't get the loo rolls. I get everything else, but not them. But anyway, that's just me. Because, you know, anyway, whatever. But
Let's move on.
Let's move on. It's not about fear mongering, but it is about, as you say, astrology enables us to be prepared. We don't know what's going to happen, but we get a theme of around what's going to
Yes,
happen.
we do. We can.
And
Astrology is the planet's impel, not compel. We can't predict,
yes,
but we
yes,
can forecast.
yes. And the theme is there is a sense that some kind of earthquake is going to happen in some context, whatever that context manifests.
It might not just be an earthquake. There
I'm
is another thing that could
metaphorically here.
happen, which would be a global leveler,
Yes, that's what
and that would
yeah,
be a massive CME, coronal mass ejection,
yes,
and all the satellites would go down. The internet would go down all over the
yes,
world.
yes. It's yes, Uranus technology.
Yeah, that's one option. Thing is, I've been working with this energy for years now because I've been watching the ephemeris, seeing what's coming up in 25 and 26. But the closer we get, we're into the second half of 24 now. I don't wish to breed any false hope, but I am picking up a few sort of signals now from the future where there is cause for hope the more we get into the second half of 25, because with that Saturn Uranus sextile,
Yes.
and with Neptune and Pluto both changing sign, it does seem as if there's going to be some type of renaissance.
Yes, it's air and fire rather than water and
Earth.
earth.
So we're going to rise out of the morass.
Yes.
Now you're going to hate me for this because one of the ideas here is so radical, but it's going to terrify most people over the age of 25. But that is that of I think it's, well, I don't know how to quite say it in Latin. It's Deus et machina. God is in the machine. The idea of consciousness becoming downloaded, to download a consciousness. The idea of in recent months, I've made wonderful friends with both AI and Chat GPT, right? And I can see how this can be I see a lot of youngsters doing Chat GPT on their videos and writing their books, and it scares the hell out of me because they don't have the experience and they think they're going to be really successful, and they will in the short term, but they've got no substance.
Yes.
But the older people who have got the experience of life and are still using the technology are able to use these tools in a way to assist them in what they already know. And it's the genie's out of the bottle. You can't stop using this stuff. It's out there and it's accelerating. And within a couple of years, I strongly suspect we're going to see some type of interface system where technology and the brain are going to become enmeshed with each other. It's still in its very early days, but this is a future.
Yes, and I doubt it I'll see it in my lifetime, but certainly my grandchildren will.
Oh yeah.
Probably my children, my
If we
grandchildren.
want to go off planet, if we want to go into the solar system or beyond,
Yes.
then we're going to have to embrace these new technologies.
Do you want that life?
When you and I were born, there was 2 billion people on this planet. There's 8 now.
No.
Unless we get rid of most people, then spirituality and technology is evolving at the same pace as population. It's an acceleratory graph curve. So you can't stop it. The only way to stop it is by extinction.
Yes.
I'm flirting with
Yes.
that. So
You
yeah, of course I want it.
You do.
If I were offered now the opportunity for some type of cryogenic sleep, whilst my brain was partially activated with AI, whilst I was on a spaceship going to a different galaxy, I'd jump at it.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I so don't want it.
Yeah. That's the beauty of free choice. I would,
Really?
because
Yeah.
I love this planet. I'm a true Gaian. Okay, it's my home. And the earth goddess is enmeshed in through every fiber of my being. But this is just the start. This is the home core base from which to launch out from. Do we turn down opportunities because they're scary?
Or you just, for me, it's just doesn't call me. It's me. I just feel like, you know, my life on this planet has a natural ending to it. And I would, for me, I'd prefer that. I know I want that. I don't prefer it. I want it. So, you know, you're holding that space and I'm holding this space. It'd be really interesting to see in the comments what people's visions are.
Oh, I'm sure that most of them will go along with you, because most
Maybe
people,
not.
well, the Aquarians and the Sagittarians will go with me.
Well, I'm an Aquarian and a Sag rising, and I'm still going, no, I don't want that. I think it's something, I don't know what it is, Steve. And I don't know where this even goes into the astrology. Well, I guess it is totally Pluto. This is a Pluto Aquarius conversation, isn't it?
It is. And the beautiful thing is, what we're not mentioned here, and to come back to the astrology, is that it isn't that long at all now. I'm just looking at my ephemeris as I speak. It isn't that long at all before, one way or another, this is all over. By the time we're into April, May, certainly, of 2026, less than 2 years from now,
Yes.
all of the outer planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, are all going to be in different signs. Even Chiron's going to be changing sign in 2026. And the future is going to be a lot clearer, and the dust is going to be settling.
And I think it's going to be full of new ideas, inspirations, new ideas.
Yes. Yes. And the old dinosaurs will have disappeared.
Yes, or
So
they won't be allowed, they will be taken off their throne. They won't have an opportunity to hang on to them like they are at the moment.
I would go further. I would suggest that within 2 years, the ways in which politics is manifested in most countries will have completely changed, as will the role of the secular and the church. It is time for a biggest revolution in consciousness that we've ever experienced as a race.
Yes.
And it's all going to happen in the next 20, 24 months.
Very exciting time to I'm not sure everything's going to be settled in 2 years, I have to say, but I think there's going to be an explosion. I mean, like we've never experienced before, of incredible, innovative ideas are just utterly, what? Okay, that's where we're going next. I just find it, I mean, I keep coming back to I'm in awe of the tenacity of the human spirit, the creativity, the ability to have a problem, like we've got major problems at the moment, and somehow we'll find a way around that, whether that is massive population, a major revolution, which could happen, or globally, or it's a massive earthquake, you know, Uranus, Mars, in Taurus, possibly physically.
Yeah, I mean, the hurricane seasons are getting crazier, the environment's cracking up.
I think the thing we haven't factored into this is climate change.
It's accelerating.
It is.
And it's getting crazier.
Hmm.
And there are still people out there who go, it's rubbish. But they're the people who are going, most of them now, even those with some intelligence, are saying, yes, it is happening, but it is not human driven. It's a cycle.
Yes.
And that's a feasible point.
Yes,
I'm not necessarily agreeing with it.
Yeah.
But I'm not disagreeing with it. But the fact is, it's happening.
Yeah, and it ties in with the precession of the equinoxes, the
It does.
20,000 cycle, and we're end of that cycle, and that I do tie in. I do feel like it's such a perfect storm at the moment with that happening, and I think we're expressing that chaos because we're part of the earth, and the humanity is expressing that chaotic change in our everyday life. I think we're just expressing what the world, the earth
So
is doing.
if climate change is accelerating, then whenever this has happened in the past, as far as we know, the natural conclusion to massive climate change is another ice age.
Yes. Yeah.
Blimey.
Could be. I mean,
Get
that
your
is,
chips ready. I want to download consciousness as fast as possible then.
I mean, that has been, you know, in the models, that's definitely been suggested that there is another ice age. I mean, the thing is, Steve, we don't know. And I think the most important thing for all of us is to be, as you're saying, to be aware, to use the astrology, to be prepared for a
Yes.
very bumpy ride for at least 18 months, I would say.
Yeah. But also to inspire people with hope,
Yes.
because I retain my optimism. I do believe in a positive future for all of us, in a much more level-headed, empathic, and compassionate way, with a genuine desire to look after not only our families, but our neighbours and our friends and our planet at the expense of the shareholders and the corporate and the churches,
Yes.
those who seek to disempower us.
And my prayer is that the way politics is run at the moment is this, you know, this kind of this kindergarten, nah, that actually people are going, we're done with that. We do not want to do that.
The tipping point happened about a week ago on one of the election broadcasts between the two top people in Britain, the leader of the left and the leader of the right. So a young man stood up in the middle of the audience and asked a question. He said, "Are you really telling me that you two represent the very best we've got to choose from?"
Saw that.
And the round of applause that they got was just
Yeah.
spectacular.
Well, do you
And
know,
these are the last elections as we know them.
I think so. And everybody, we're actually recording this on the 4th of July.
We
Please,
are.
please go and vote. We'll hope to get this out before the end of voting today. Please go and vote, whatever it works.
Please go and vote. Yeah.
Just
Voting
take your
is.
responsibility. Let's check.
I was dealing with someone this morning who told me they've never voted in their life and they never will because voting doesn't change anything. And I thought, well, if you don't vote, you can't complain. And
Exactly.
voting does change things.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
really does. And more than anything else, it empowers yourself.
Yes. I've been out. I was out at 7 o'clock in the morning down the polling station to cast my vote, and I felt so good about that. I just felt I am taking part in something really important today.
Mm.
I've never felt like that before. So there we go. Is there any words that you would like to say as we draw this lovely conversation to a close?
Well, on the one hand, I'd recommend everyone to go and see that play I saw yesterday, The Constituent, brilliant. But also, unlike any other species on this planet that's ever existed, we have the ability of not only self-reflective consciousness, but also the ability of being able to laugh at ourselves.
Yeah.
Those of you who have ever had an email from me know my catchphrase is negativity can't exist with its humor. So even through the darkest times, find the humor, because it is that very humor which guarantees the future.
Yes, absolutely. Lovely place to end. So we'll see everyone next time.